The wiring and accessories episode starts now.
There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM, with even more exclusive content, like over 140 channels in your vehicle, including the widest, deepest variety of music, ad-free. Root for your team. Get news. Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels filled with music and enjoy a favorite shows with SiriusXM Video. Thousands of hours of shows and performances on demand. What you love is on now.
Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Ben Wu for another episode of CMA Live presented by SiriusXM. Now, when it comes to wiring and accessories, there seems to be two different camps on this subject. So for some, this category represents a necessity, a means to an end. Include it as a bare minimum with the install and make the profit on the components and the labor. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, this category represents an upsell opportunity, and perhaps more importantly, a necessary and fundamental component in a high-performance, well-balanced audio system. So tonight we're going to go through and discuss with 5 different brands their take on why premium accessories and wiring are so important, starting with our very first guest. iConnex is a brand born in Canada and also distributed in the US as well. It's from the brainchild of the guys over at Trends Electronics. Tonight, we get to welcome their National Sales Director, Grant McPhatter. I'd like to welcome him to CMA Live.
Hey, Ben.
Mr.
How you doing,
McPhatter,
man?
I'm doing the very best. I'm happy to have you on tonight and kicking off our wiring and accessory show.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having us on. Always a pleasure.
So, I got that right. iConnex.
Your production,
Yep.
your production level is really good. We have a countdown timer coming on. We've got a live timer. It's just badass. Just want to say that your production's pretty good.
I appreciate it. It's not just me. We have a whole team behind here. We've got, we put a lot of work into it because it's important. It's important that this is entertaining and that people can absorb what we're trying to message them. So getting back on track, we're talking about iConnex. It's a brand from Trends Electronics that you guys have developed from scratch. And before we get into the whole thing, I wanted to kind of start this evening's show and set the tone because I want to hear everybody's opinion. You guys are all experts in your field. Why do dealers need to understand that they need to consider using premium quality wires in every install? Why is that so important?
Well, I mean, most of the dealers that are on this format with CMA, they're premium dealers for the most part. They're not selling entry-level products, so why would you sell entry-level accessories to go with it? So that's kind of our stance on it. Is everything we do is pure copper. We don't do any CCA, and why would you when you're selling high-end amplifiers, speakers, subwoofers, or head units? You're, like you said in the intro, your weakest link is you don't want a weak link, period. You're selling a flagship Kenwood head unit with a Moscone amplifier, Focal speakers, whatever the brands are. You want it to be top notch, top to bottom. So why chimp out on the stuff that's connecting it all? That's our opinion.
Very good, very good. And that's very important to hear because as we go through the evening, as we talk to experts such as yourselves, it's going to draw a very strong picture. And for me to summarize, I'm going to drive home the fact because let me just say this from the get-go. I'm very passionate about wiring and accessories in general, even from my background in home. And, I meant every word I said. It is only your system is only as strong as its weakest link. If you're not doing yourself a favor nor the customer any favors by not using premium wiring to complete the system. On that note, you mentioned something about copper. Crazy things happening around the world, inventory, supply, demand. What on earth? Why don't you give the folks listening in an update on what is going on with copper prices today?
It's bananas, man. Well, I mean, like the whole electronics industry's been turned on up in its head with, chip shortages, product shortages, head unit shortages, everything. And copper this time last year, in May last year, we were paying $5,200 a ton for it, and now it's almost $11,000 a ton. So it's more than double.
I think
I
think we have a chart that can actually further illustrate how ridiculous this is right now.
Yeah,
take a look at that.
This isn't Grant McFadder math. This is actual. You can go onto the London Metal Exchange and check this out for yourself. But I gave you a copy of that picture on the graph, so that shows you, from May last year it was $5,200 a ton, upwards now. If you actually run it today, it's over $11,000 a ton. So the price of copper has gone through the roof, and that's just bare copper. We use a premium product which is using tinned copper, which is actually even more money. So it's bananas what's going on with the price of copper.
All right, well, let's take this graph down, because that's going to lead us right into my next question. Copper is a very important component to what we're talking about tonight, which is wiring, power wire, everything that runs on copper. But
Yep.
you mentioned something, you were that chart was describing pure copper. But why is the composition of copper so important? And what exactly, because I noticed a logo there, pure flow copper.
That's what we're using for the copper. We use 100% pure oxygen-free copper. We don't use any CCA at all, which is copper-clad aluminum, if people aren't aware what CCA is. There was a fad a number of years back where, because the price of copper was high, back in the early to mid 90s, they started making cheaper products. And, you'd get amp kits for $20, $30. And it was the race to zero. And thank God that, dealers and the high quality dealers that are on these episodes realize that, it's not doing yourself any favor. You're selling a 1,000-watt amplifier, and by the time that 20-foot run of power on 20 foot of CCA wire, you're getting 30% drop off. So you might as well sell the guy a 700-watt amp. So it's important that we use premium products on our premium products. We're not using a Moscone amplifier and using a cheap CCA amp kit.
Very good. So, a lot of people say, yeah, but, wires are wires. It doesn't really matter, as long as it you're laughing, but it's true. I do hear it often, wires are wires. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to tell the people listening in, what key features make Iconnex, maybe separate them or that your brand, your product offering, from the crowd.
So one of the things we did when we looked at the copper we're getting, we're buying it actually out of Taiwan. We're not buying out of a Chinese supplier. We're buying it out of Taiwan, so we don't have to worry about any tariffs. One of the suppliers, Trends, has been in the accessory business for over 30 years, so we've got a lot of good contacts across the world. And one of the brands we dealt with past got their product from Taiwan, so we buy it directly from Taiwan. It's one of the best accessory manufacturers on the planet. And we use a version of copper called tinned copper. So there's multiple benefits to that. The premium one, the first and foremost one is we do a lot of products in the marine industry. So tinning the copper actually gives us a marine rating on the cable itself. So it's a bonus byproduct of having tinned copper. The tinned copper will last up to 10 times longer than bare copper. So there's another side effect of making it with a tinning rather than just bare copper. And quite frankly, a lot of guys like to solder their connections, and tin is one of the primary products that are in solder. So for those guys that like to solder all their connections on their power wire, ring terminals, everything, this makes it much easier to solder because of the tin component to it.
Very cool. Now, I noticed there's some design elements to it. Apparently at the Trends Camp, you got some whiz designer that really helps you make your products look good. Do you have any of those products with you, especially the packaging that I was kind of referring to?
I might have some of them here. Mr. Vendrasco, our marketing manager, did a great job on these. Obviously, we're talking about a premium product. We wanted it to look really nice, so our Pro Series amp kits. So this is our Pro 4 2000, so 2000 watts peak, 1000 watts RMS amp kit. Everything you need in the box. We include a nice quality twisted pair RCA with a 90-degree connector on it, all the grommets, zip ties, everything you would possibly need in the kit. So All pure copper, front to back, with the speaker wire, everything. We don't cheap out on anything on the kit. That's our Pro series, and then we also have a step down series where we don't cheap out on the content, the copper content. We just lower the amount of strands in it, so it's not quite as high end as the other ones, but it does give you a price break. These are our core kits. Again, very good, same family look to them. We just lower the strand count on the amp kits to get a cheaper price on it. Oh, we lost Ben. All right, I'll fill the dead air. Who's telling some jokes? I don't know what happened. Ben, are you there? There you go, my man.
Sorry about that.
I was almost ready to get naked, kill some dead air.
Oh my God, first time that's ever happened. But hey, we are live, just so you guys know, we are absolutely live. Sorry, the last I left you was with the second packaging of the more economical version of the amp kit.
Yeah, so we have the Pro kits as our premium brand, and we have Core, which is our step-down product. So, like I was saying, the quality of the cable that is inside here is no different. We just lowered the strand count on the 4-gauge wire itself. So instead of 1666 strands, we have 1470. So that's really the only difference between the amp kits is the lower strand count. We don't cheap out on anything else that's in there.
Very, very cool. Now, I have to draw attention to, do you have an interconnect package handy?
I do.
There's a neat feature here I want you to talk about and the design behind this.
Yeah, this was the Grant McFadder feature on here. I worked with Mr. Vendrasco in the install bay, and I'd take him back a bunch of stuff and give him the RCAs, and I would grab whatever was on the hook, and he'd come back and say, "You dumbass, we don't need a 5 meter, we need a 4.5 meter," and we'd already torn the bag apart. So what we've actually done is put a Ziploc resealable seal on there. So there is a tearaway at the top. Do not use the tearaway, you don't need to. We have a nice Ziploc feature there. We can pull the cable out. And if I give this to Mr. Vendrasco in the install bay and it says 4.5 meter and we need a 3 meter, we can put this back in the bag and we don't have an ugly RCA hanging off the hook on the slat wall. So simple thing, but dealers that know it's a big deal.
Oh, dude, I can't tell you how many times I opened the blister pack. You know those blister packs are so hard to open and impossible to repackage. Yeah. Once they're open, they're done. And I was the sales guy. I know exactly what you're talking about. And yeah, boss ain't happy. He's got a shredded up package that is never going to sell. But yeah.
Never happened
to me.
Good idea.
Actually.
It never happened to me.
Never,
I always did the
not.
right length.
Of course not.
Never. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Of course. All right. So some pretty cool features. And apparently you guys got ring terminals.
Yeah. Yeah, funny you say that because I didn't think it was a big deal, but there was a bunch of dealers when we started launching this were asking us about ring terminals. I'm like, just go on Alibaba or whatever. You can get them. They're dime a dozen. And it was actually an issue getting good quality ring terminals. So we actually went out and sourced some good quality ones. So we have 2 different versions. We have a Pro series. If I can get my angle right. Ding. Let's just do this.
There you go.
So there's the Pro version and there's the standard version. So a couple of things to note. First thing is on the Pro one, we have a sealed top to it. So if you can see that, there's no way for water to get through there and penetrate the top of the wire. There's no wire exposed on the Pro ring terminals. And it's also a solid barrel. So when you crimp down on it, there's a lot more surface to mass when you crimp down on there. On the standard ones, there's nothing really special about these other than they're nickel plated, but there's the standard ring. The top is open, so there is a possibility of water getting into your wire or corrosion and stuff like that, and then it has a split ring on it. So we have both these available in 1/0, 4 gauge and 8 gauge ring terminals, all packaged in a 2-pack, all in our nice fancy Mr. Vendrasco packaging. So there's 2. You'll get a red and a black in the package as well. So again, I didn't think it was a big deal, but apparently getting good quality ring terminals was. So we went out and sourced them for our good dealers.
Well, good to know. iConnect has got you covered if you're looking for those ring terminals. And what gauge? Those are 4 and 8, or
4, 8, 1/0, 4 and 8.
1/0, 4 and 8. There you go. All right. Bottom of the segment. I have to leave. and not just tuck it in and bundle it into the package?
Well, I think you're giving away a massive profit opportunity. It's not just our industry. The whole world is having issues with supply. I mean, I deal with some hot tub manufacturers with some of our home audio products, and they can't. Your delivery for a hot tub is 60 weeks out, so you're waiting a year. So, my opinion, why give away the product when you can charge for it? I mean, and then you want to charge a premium price for a premium quality product. All in this business, no one's getting rich in this business. We're all in here to make a buck, so why not make a few more with some good quality accessories?
Well said. You heard it from the man himself. That's iConnex wiring and accessories, courtesy of Trends Electronics. Make sure you give them a call if you want to become a dealer. And I want to thank Grant. Grant, thank you for taking the time today to join our show and talk a little bit about wiring and accessories.
Thanks for having us on, Ben. Much appreciated, sir.
All right, we'll see you soon. All right. I love, every opportunity we get to promote a Canadian brand or anything that's homegrown here. I'm going to take that opportunity. So kudos to Trends for coming up with iConnex and providing a solution for this category from a Canadian brand. Moving on to our next brand. Now, the next brand, we got a couple juggernaut brands on tonight, and this is one of them. This is a brand that has far exceeded the initial scope of their product offering when they first came out, because now they can literally be found in so many retailers across so many different categories, from car phone holders to adapters. But really, if you look at the roots, the reason why we have them on today is because they are an incredible player in this game of wiring and accessories. And I'm talking about EFX Scosche. So joining us from Scosche Industries is their sales trainer for Connected Car, Mr. Frank Quintero. Hello, hey, Frank. Ben, welcome to CMA. Awesome, man. Happy to have Scosche with us. This is our first time talking to you guys. This is great. Thank you for making the time.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
So, Frank, I mean, you represent a brand that is, it really is a juggernaut in so many ways. But, before we get into the brand, I like to pick your brain real quick so we can set the stage and set the tone for our conversation. From a Scosche perspective, why is it so important that dealers recognize that they need to use and need to push premium quality wires and accessories to their customers?
Well, first of all, there's the power, power handling. Using cheaper copper-clad aluminum wire is just going to cause a current bottleneck in your system. It's 40%. Copper-clad aluminum is actually 40% less efficient than oxygen-free copper, and that's just due to the amount of heat that the aluminum generates, when the current's running through it. So you wouldn't want to go out and buy yourself a brand new Corvette or like a Hellcat and fill it up with the cheapest fuel that you can find available. You're not going to get the performance out of it. It can lead to problems later on in the future. And then the other thing is safety and longevity. Like I said, all the heat associated with it, heat kills components. So there's more potentials for failure later on down the road. Ours comes with the tinned wire strands. So there's almost no chance that it's going to get corroded, whereas copper-clad aluminum is not tinned. So over time, it is going to start to build up, especially in like hot and humid climates. You're going to start to get a bunch of gunk on it, and it's going to start to break down, and the customer's going to come back, wondering what's going on with their system. You're going to spend a bunch of time troubleshooting it, only to find out that the wire broke down, and that was your issue. And also more profit. I mean, upselling them, the customer is going to lead to a better bottom line for sure.
No, these are all points, and dealers can definitely relate to everything you just said. So let's talk about Scosche. Scosche in this category has been in this game for quite some time. I want to give you the opportunity to let our viewers know, maybe, or remind them even, or introduce them, depending on what it is, to some of the key features that the Scosche lineup has in this category that really separate them from the competition.
Sure. So as everyone knows, we started off in the 80s, or most know. We started off with dash kits, which we're still known for, the OEM style fit and finish, the texture. We also have some really nice dash kits that include OEM style brackets, the metal aluminum brackets. Even some of our power sports kits, like the Harley Davidson kits, come with aluminum brackets, and we reuse all of the mounting points Any OEM style clips come pre-installed as well. There's also with our wire, all of our wire is true spec American wire gauge standards. A lot of it meets or exceeds the American wire gauge standard. Also, if there's any comparable like metric wire out on the market, like the European and South Asian brands, our wire actually meets or exceeds that in American wire gauge standards. And then we also have like our interface line. A lot of the popular interfaces now include the ISO connectors, making it super easy to install. There's no complicated programming with our interfaces. It's very, very simple, straightforward, and they just work great. And under the Scotia umbrella, as you mentioned, we offer everything from premium cables, which will work out great for your CarPlay customers and Android Auto customers. Other things that we offer are interior tape. Some people out there might not know that we have cloth interior tape that's high quality. We now offer dash cameras. I mean, we've just gotten into so many different market segments over the years.
Oh, I really like hearing about the tapes. I was not aware that Scotia actually had tapes. That's pretty cool, especially for the fabricators and technicians that are tuning in. I looked through the line and I want to zone in on a particular product. I'm sure you're excited to talk about it. And I know that Scotia's a little bit proud of this particular product as well. And we're talking about your distribution blocks. So tell us about the distribution block and tell us about just how many configurations or how many ways this block can be used.
So with the distribution block here, it can actually be used up into 6 different configurations. So you can do like a standard 1 in, 0 or 1 gauge in, and then 4 to 8 gauge out. And that's in power and ground. It can be used in both. It does come with a grounding plate, so you can use it as a ground block as well. You can also use it in a high power application where you can have dual aught gauge or 1 gauge going in and 4 or 8 gauge coming out. And you can use it as in the ground configuration as well. Or you can do power and ground through the same block. Again, aught gauge or 1 coming in and 4 and 8 gauge coming out.
Wicked. Very flexible. That has to be a popular piece, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's got a very small footprint, so there's a lot of options for installation as well.
Very, very nice. Moving quickly to another segment that I know you guys have kind of been delving in and a little bit excited about, power sports. So Scotia's now offering stuff for power sports, and I've been hearing buzz about these power sport amp kits. So why is it important to do like a power sport specific amp kit when it comes to installing an amp in a power sport situation?
Well, all of our Rogue Series power sport amp kits have the BC5W2 rating, which is a marine grade rating on the outer jacket. It relates to the temperature resistance. So it's designed to be out in the elements. So you don't want to use cheap copper clad aluminum or a non-marine grade rated wire, because eventually it's going to break down, being out exposed to the extreme heat or, can't tolerate any moisture, dust, or dirt. Also, ours come with equal length power and ground runs to make it easy to install. So we've got 6 foot, 16 foot, and even up to a 26 foot, I believe, for boats.
Hey Frank, I think we actually have an image for this. Let's bring up the image so you can talk about it while we look at it. Here we go.
Oh, great. Yep.
There we go.
That's it, perfect. So as you can see in the image on the right-hand side, everything comes pre-installed. All of the terminals are pre-installed. We have a full weatherproof fuse holder that uses mini A&L fuses. Most of the kits come with speaker wire as well. The only one that doesn't come with any speaker wire is the boat kit. Just depending on the amp location. But as I was mentioning, it all comes already nylon braided for a consistent run, and it's all marine grade quality, so it's designed to be out in the element. So very important when choosing your kits. And these can be used in anything from a Harley Davidson or a touring bike all the way to a UTV or your Razor or your Can-Am.
Awesome. And I noticed for boats as well, for marine application as well.
Yes, and for boats as well, yeah.
Excellent. All right. Thank you for the image. Fits you guys into so many different categories, right? This one happens to be wiring accessories. Being an expert on accessories, Scosche that is,
Well, as mentioned before, don't bundle your packages to your customers. You're not doing yourself any favors thinking that by bundling cheaper wire and accessories, it's going to make the price a little more attractive to your customer. I mean, really, talk to them about the differences and the quality of the components. Give them the good, better, and best options, and let the customer make an educated decision. And you're going to see an increase in your margins and in your bottom line for sure.
Man, that's some great advice. Time and sharing with us a little bit of what, a small little piece of what the offering at Scosche is when it comes to accessories. We hope to have you on again soon.
Thank you.
Got to remind everybody, if you're looking for Scosche products in Canada, you definitely want to hit up BB Distribution. They are the distributor for Scosche, and that is exactly who you want to contact for anything Scosche. I mean, they have so many categories. Check out their website. And obviously very big in the wire and accessory category. All right, moving along, getting a learn on here about the wire and accessories. A lot of cool new products. Now, this next brand does a lot as well, but they are no slouch when it comes to the wiring and accessories category. Perhaps more well known for their in-car mobile video screens. Excel Electronics certainly has a catalog deep enough to satisfy the most demanding install base. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome to CMA Live the Vice President of Excel Electronics, Mr. Christian Way.
Hey, what's going on, Ben? How are you?
How are you doing? Oh, we're talking about cables and wires and accessories, and it's not for everybody, but I love talking about this stuff. How about you?
Man, yeah, it's a pretty funny category. So when I first started, it was right around when, I think I started right around with Moses at Excel. The company began actually as a hardware company back in the day. That was it. I mean, literally, the original owner was Mark Greenberg, and he started by selling connectors out of the back of his trunk. I mean, that was really, that's how Excel started. Really, not kidding at all.
Your roots,
great.
Your roots,
yeah,
is accessories and
absolutely, yeah. And the guy was he had one good thing, and he talked about kind of that, just about quality, just quality components, quality connectors, whether they be Nichifu connectors at that time or Molex, and I mean now everyone and their grandmothers has a like an import line, or a lot of distributors are bringing their own, and it's a slippery slope. You got to be careful.
Well, I'm going to start with this because this is unique for Excel. When you think wiring and accessories, you're thinking power wire, you're thinking, and we can get into that. But Excel offers a lot more than just that. What comes to mind are like relays, and these are all part of installation and important tools that the installer needs. So why do dealers need to consider, even in those categories, premium quality versus just the run-of-the-mill stuff?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's I'm worried to sound like a broken record here, right? Like this, like copper clad aluminum stuff is, it's frightening. I don't know where that really became part of it. So, there's a certain level of that you should have a threshold of the quality of products that you install and that you use, because the rest are gonna bring problem. Like we'll just do, CCA. Let's talk about that really quick. I mean,
Can we bring up the image? We have an image that talks about copper and the relay. Yeah. Let's go ahead and bring that first image.
Yeah, it's just Yeah, we'll get to that. There's another one, and we can. It's really a picture of a. We'll show you a picture of a relay and a picture of wire, but it's time, money, and quality, right? So that's really what it boils down to. You use that, you're most likely going to replace it. If you're using copper clad aluminum, you're most likely going to replace it a lot sooner than straight copper. With us, we don't sell any cladded product like that at all. It's just again back to Mark and then continue with Alan. They just refuse. We created a threshold of a quality, and I think every dealer needs to do that as well. And I know sometimes we're in a race to get to really dig in on that bottom line. But, I mean, just what is the cost of that when that product comes back? Because you used a connector and the vinyl slips off the connector, or you use copper clad and God forbid you start a car fire. But I mean, it's probably negative, but you're going to have to replace it. You're going to have to send an installer back in there, and they're not cheap anymore. I mean, the average wage of an installer in the U.S. is about $47,000 a year. So do you want them working on? Right? It's not just the money you lost because you had to put them in there. Double that. It's the opportunity cost because you could be doing some other installs. So, we have dealers in the U.S. and across that that kind of call and grind us about pricing and want the cheapest thing and we have a threshold, and I think every dealer needs to do that. Just the base. And then you got to have the step up, right? Then you got to have we still have a Pro Line series where it's a much better product. It's nickel plated or gold plated, a little more durable. You want to have something that you can step up to. And again, that's our Pro Line series that we would have. But the rest of it, starting from our imports all the way to our wire, which we still offer domestic grade wire, right? I mean, because something happened in the 90s into the 2000s, and they got cheaper wire, but they really didn't, because everyone just kind of started playing tricks with the gauge of the wire, true 18 gauge. I mean, good luck finding that. We actually have it. We have it in-house. We have wire that is made in the U.S., true gauge.
Really?
You order 18 gauge. Yeah. So we offer both, right? And then we play the game a little bit with the, it's just 18 gauge, kind of looks like 19, but I guess it's 18, and everyone else does. But again, it's having, it's real copper. It's really going to conduct. You're not going to have to go replace it. And you gotta have a threshold.
Well, it sounds like you're touching on a couple key features that you're pretty proud of your products. Is there any, let's dive in a little bit more. Like, what do you want the dealers tuning in to know about Excel Electronics and your wiring and accessories products?
Again, it's about that threshold, and we've always had it, and we just kind of refuse to carry anything that's cheap. We don't want inexpensive.
Sorry, Chris. Now let's bring up that image. I think this is the image I was actually referring to.
Yeah.
Where I want you to talk about exactly where you're about to go with the copper and all that stuff. Here you go.
Yeah. Again, just the amount of strands. The copper. It's not. It's not plated. And then to our relays. Like again, we had an episode. How long ago was that? That was during CMA week, right? That was That was great.
Back in April.
We had the pleasure of having Alan on there. Was a lot better about talking about the components. He was discussing our relays. Relays alone. I mean, I know it's a simple thing, and I know there's 60 and 70 cent relays out there, but I just don't know if that's really worth it. I don't know if that's worth your time. I mean, you don't want to go digging in for, to replace a relay. That just takes time, and it takes irritation by the customer too. With our relays, there you go. You see they're copper, right? Our contacts are rated usually 30% higher than anybody else's in the market. We have, and they're silver, mind you, right? So they're going to conduct better. We have negative spike suppression. We have, which protects the other components beyond the relay. And higher amperage, right? Everyone else's relays are 2030, we're 4060, so it's those little things that, our engineers focus on when bringing in our buyers, focusing on when bringing in products, and designing products. Mm-hmm.
Let's go.
Even down to our spray glue. I was going to say, even down to our spray glue.
Let's take down this image.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta. I don't have the can on me, but I'm telling you, I was just thinking about that earlier when you had mentioned some of our older SKUs, and our spray glue is unbelievable. I don't know if they put fairy dust in it, but it sits all day long, and it still have the cost. But again, it's having that threshold, right? And when you're doing a box or you're doing a trunk liner,
what are some of the top selling accessories? No. What are some of the top selling? Like, I want to know. I only have so much time with you. Do you have
going to dive into this really fast into some of our USB accessories, which are really easily sold. They're great upsellers, but this guy alone, right? So when we brought these in, everyone uses these, USB extensions, right? You can take a nice look at it. It's pretty common, on just about every deck, you're installing. You want to leave this handy for someone to plug in their iPhone and have connectivity. And everybody in the industry was having an issue with connectivity. And we thought, okay, with Apple products, it's the length of the extension. Maybe and we tested everything, right? Everything. And what it was the amount of copper, right? So it's not just, now we have other devices that are dependent on connectivity, right? So in continuity. And that's all it was. We doubled the amount of copper, and I think we're going through all of our accessories and doubling, but certainly on this one and a few others, we already doubled the amount of copper, and we don't have any issues with connectivity, right? And it wasn't the length. It was just the amount of copper. That's all it was. And these are great. Obviously, singles. We'll go into a lot of our others. We have, I think we're going to show some other tools later, but we have a full line. If you go to our website, we have a full line of USB extensions. So we have, USB to 3.5 extensions, which can be used every single day. We have, more OE versions, or we have dual USB extensions. Again, 6 foot. We doubled the copper, so it's working with both Android Auto and CarPlay if you have a deck that requires that. These are all little accessories that you can upsell every single day. This piece is really cool. So if you look at, that's actually our, that's a dual USB extension, okay? And it comes with snap-on trims, right? So on this one you have new Honda, old Honda, new Toyota, Nissan, all those little adapters are in the kit. So you have this one thing on the shelf, and it'll fit right into the OE punch outs, which is nice. A nice, easy upsell, and with every head unit. Yeah, you want to give people easy access to it, right? To charging.
This is what you're showing here. What you're showing right here is exactly why I wanted you on the show, because you guys got so many of these little things that people don't think about, but they're all upsell items.
Yeah. Every single one of them. Yeah, you wouldn't want to miss an opportunity. I mean, again, we don't sell decks, so we're that is the one thing that we don't do. We have some items coming in, but we'll talk about that later. But we really have kind of avoided that. Just it's pretty. It's pretty. There's a lot of people selling decks. You have Pioneers to the Kenwoods to some of the metal echelon people that are selling them. But there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of fish in that pond. But how much money are they actually making off a deck? I know people are coming in, but I'm at a glance, dealers are making more off of speakers and amps and everything they're adding to it. And this is exactly the same thing, because you're not making a lot of money off the decks. I know the distributors aren't, and I'm pretty sure the dealers aren't either, right? So you have to rely on everything else, right? And if you're going to charge for labor, then you have to use good components, right? So people to come back and they know that they paid extra for labor, for a good install. This piece is awesome too. This is a new for like charging plugs. Check that out. It's a 3.0 and it has USB-C. So you have USB-C charging plus 3.0 rapid charging. Nice. But all those little devices are huge and accessories that you want to be able to add on.
Christian, we got one more image I'd like to throw up. If we can get that one more image, I want you to close off. You have about a minute to talk about this. Very important selling tools, when it comes to this category.
Huge, man. Everyone asks, how do you go about it? How do you bring about that conversation? And how do you train your salespeople to upsell? Sometimes it's an installer that's in the front trying to take care of a customer. How do you train them how to sell all that? You got to have POP. You got to put the product out there. We have pretty much, even on this one right here, which is a USB display. It's simple. That plugs in the wall, lights up. You sell a deck. Pretty simple line. You walk up and say, hey, in the back of that deck, in the back of that Kenwood, you have USB, you have 3.5, you have HDMI inputs. How do you want access to that? And you walk them over to the display and you just give them the open-ended question. How do you want access to that? And it puts them in a corner. And they're like, okay, well, that would be nice. Yeah, well, we can put this here. And, that'll be an extra $125. We can install that right there, plug it in. Yeah. And if they switch, right? They move out of the corner. Then you're like, well, I guess we can leave an HDMI cable in the glove compartment, or eventually they're just 9 out of 10 people are just going to say, yeah, that makes sense to me, and they're going to let you.
It's just so much cleaner of an option too.
Yeah,
so much cleaner.
So you have to use you got to have selling tools, you got to have POP, and you got to know how to use them. Mm-hmm.
Perfect, man. You heard it from the wise man, Vice President of Excel Electronics. Remind us again who you're distributed for or by in Canada, please.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. We have B&B and Importel. Give them a shout. Both fantastic distributors and great partners. So if you're not doing business with them, you should be. All right.
BB Distribution or Importel, that's where you're going to get you some Excel Electronics wire and accessories. Christian, thanks so much for taking the time, brother.
Peace. Thanks, man.
Talk to you soon. All right. 2 more brands to go, and these 2 brands are, man, they're big in this category for sure, and there's no way we could have done a wiring and accessory show without these 2 brands. So first off, we're going to talk about, well, Metra Electronics. Metra, juggernaut of the game, of course. Many different categories covered, but they take their wiring and accessories pretty darn serious, especially with their brand. They have actually different brands. But he made sure he took the time to sit down with us and talk to us about the cool stuff happening at Metra and what the offering is, in particular, T-Spec, which you're going to learn all about in this recorded session that I did with Gatlin. Let's go ahead and play the reel. Hey, Gatlin, I can't thank you enough to make the time to be able to sit with us to talk about wires and accessories. I know it's in a category for Metra, and I know you're going on vacation. So, hey, thanks for taking the time, man.
Not a problem at all, Ben. Thanks for having me as usual. I do love doing these podcasts, and hopefully we can inform the viewers today.
So, like I said, wires and accessories, we've got some great brands on tonight, but, Metra is one of those brands that have been in this game, man, for as long as anybody can remember. So I guess the question is, where do we start? And I think where I want to start is by asking you, why is it so important that dealers pay attention to the quality of accessories and wires that they put into their installs for their customers?
I think a lot of time, that we spend in our shops here, people are starting to get more in the upper echelon in products. So in regards to like your amplifiers, your speakers, your head units, and all of the hardware pieces. And so it's really important that when we're starting to get into those upper echelon audio systems, that we kind of cater to those guys as well and give them a premium product that they can use from either our T-Spec, Raptor, or Install Bay lines.
And that's one of the interesting things about Metra is that you do offer not just one line or one level. I mean, you're offering that good, better, best scenario between the Install Bay and the Raptor, and then, of course, like you said, the T-Spec. Talk to us a little bit about how important this category really is for Metra. I know I mentioned it, but I want to hear it from the horse's mouth.
The category is absolutely huge. And, anywhere from your primary wire, anywhere from your, wire loom, your 9 conductors, your, speaker cabling, your wire loom. Metra carries the, I'm sure a lot of people are very, familiar with this piece here, which is our 9 conductor. And this speed wire basically allows you to do a 4-channel audio system with a remote turn on here. It's all really important because I think more so today than anything else, people, and again, I don't want to, say anything negative about any of the brand names that are out there, but people are priding themselves more on the way that things are done than they are on the products that they're selling these days. And I think that goes a long ways for, warranty, longevity, and if you have an audio shop that's been out there for a long time, the reason is because they're doing it the right way. And there are all sorts of groups and things out there that I'm sure a lot of our viewers are actually on themselves, like the Clean Wiring 12-volt group. Take some pride in what you're doing, make it nice and clean, use top-end premium products, and the longevity of the hardware, such as your amplifiers, speakers, subs, and amps. Those things are going to last a lot longer too.
So one of the things about Metra, we're talking about wires and accessories. It is exactly that. Not only do you provide the power wire, the speaker wire, the interconnects, the diffusion, the distributor blocks, but then we're also talking about adapters, adapter plates, and the such. So what message do you have for shops? I mean, at the end of the day, you're kind of a one-stop shop, aren't you, when it comes to supplying this category?
Absolutely, Ben. The thing is that, not just your standard wiring, we also offer speaker adapter rings and speaker adapter plugs. And these two things combined right here are, super profitable for the shop. At the end of the day, a shop may charge an hour for a set of coaxial speakers in the doors. And these plug and play harnesses, which we have an abundance of vehicle make, year, and models that we have available to our consumers out there, these are literally plug and play. You plug them in, they're predetermined on the ends here, so you can go ahead and install them on your speaker. And so you're going to be charging the same amount of labor for a set of coaxial speakers, but then you're adding two profitability components. So you're going to be able to make, 50 points on a set of speaker adapters, another 50 points on a set of speaker plugs. And guess what? It's taking you the same amount of time. It's actually taking you less time. And you're able to do, make more profit on the install. So, we have such a wide variety of products, and 15 minutes is actually not enough time. But, aside from speaker adapters and plugs, there's, wire loom, wire sheathing, the expandable, sheathing here that you see here. All this stuff this is my little sample thing here. You right down to the zip ties. We offer those. We offer battery terminals, battery terminal rings, all the interconnect. Literally, we are a one-stop. If you're either looking through the Install Bay catalog or you're looking through the T-Spec or Raptor catalog, there's going to be something in there that's going to cater to your needs.
All right, so you kind of drop some names there, drop some of the brands that you have under the Metra umbrella in this category. You mentioned Install Bay, you mentioned Raptor, and you mentioned T-Spec. What are some of the features of these products that you feel really separate you from
inside that plastic sheathing, or how much copper clad is inside that a plastic sheathing? There's a line for literally every category, I guess you could say. In regards to Install Bay, is it going to be the full copper CCA oxygen free copper? No, but you're also not paying for that, right? Install Bay is your very entry-level stuff. Then you have Raptor, which is mid-level. And then, of course, you have your T-Spec, which is our premium line. So, there are such a wide variety of, offerings when it comes to cable, 1/0, 0 gauge, 4 gauge, 8 gauge, 10 gauge, primary wire. Like I said, I wish we had a little bit more time than 15 minutes to talk about all this, but there are so many things that we have to offer from all three categories.
I want to focus a little bit on the T-Spec. We got to dive deep on that a little bit. And what I wanted our listeners to know is that when it comes to Metra, they spend a lot of time and effort and have the right people in place to pay attention to the small details. And what I mean by that is packaging and merchandising. And when it comes to accessories like this, Gatlin, it's so important because that really helps support the upsell.
In regards to the upsell, a customer can walk into a retail bay, and this is our V6 RCA from T-Spec. And typically you can buy these in bulk, and they'll come in a clear plastic bag, more or less, and these would be kept in the install bay. These aren't something that you're probably going to want to display on the shelf. But again, a nice quality piece is the V6 line. But you're right. Packaging is everything. When you start getting up from, say, the lower category, the V6 RCA from T-Spec, and then you start getting into the V10 level, the packaging starts to kind of match the quality of the product as it kind of reaches the V16 line, which I'll show you here in a minute. But these are something that you can display on the shelf. And, if the customer can see it and it looks nice and clean, I think that's something that really separates the T-Spec brand from any other brand that's out there is our packaging and is the quality that's inside of the package more so. But when you look at the package and it's beside, say, maybe an audio display board, and the salesperson is saying, well, hey, you're spending X amount of dollars on this super high-end car audio system, we also have those tiers of levels within our T-Spec brand or Raptor or Install Bay that will allow you to kind of upsell in the peripheral line. So by peripherals, I mean your RCAs, your power cable, your sheathing, your heat shrink, all your shop materials, all of those things. These guys these days, especially the installers that I know, I don't know about yourself, they take an astronomical amount of pride in what they're